Is it better to work for a small business or a huge corporation? Let's talk about that from the perspective of an individual who is seeking to get more money, since getting salaried and getting the salary each month is pretty much the primary reason why we all go to work and work for whether small or huge businesses. I am not going to be talking about this question which I mentioned before from the perspective of what is good for the society as a whole, since I know that some people nowadays tend to hate big corporations, but today I'm going to be talking about that from the perspective of an individual and just listing the pros and cons of working for small businesses and for the corporations to answer the question of which place is better, right? And in which place you have to tend to work in. So before we will start talking about the pros and cons of small businesses and corporations, let's define what is a small business. The small business is something which is founded by the one person or two people, and their business is not as huge to the extent that you are not working with them directly. So when I'm talking about the small businesses, I am talking about family-owned businesses, for example, or like small law firms or small consulting firms, where the partner is the founding partner and where he actually owns the business, where he is working for his business all day long, where he is not just, a shareholder who is sitting somewhere in an offshore zone and drinking his cocktails, but about businesses where the owner is actually in the office, for example, or somewhere at the workplace, right, and is doing his things together with his workers, right? And when I'm talking about corporation, I'm not sure whether I should actually describe what is a corporation, but a huge company which has thousands, for example, of workers, which owns, huge skyscrapers where they have offices and stuff like that, and which everybody knows about. At least people who are working in the precise field tend to know about all of the best and biggest corporations in this field. Now let's jump to the pros and cons of working for a small business. So as I said, I define small business as a business which is run by an individual who founded it. In my opinion, one of the biggest advantages there is that you get to see as a worker, especially if you're a young worker, especially if you are just starting your first and second job, you will get to see how to build a business and what problems the business owners are facing and how to solve them actually. Since I myself actually worked for huge corporations and for small businesses, and currently I work for a big corporation, but before I started working for a small business, my initial thoughts was like since the childhood that I actually very much want to run the business myself. That one day I will open a company and I will have my own business. But after I saw how it actually looks like from the perspective of a business owner, right? How many hours they are putting in that they don't get pretty much any kind of rest. They are not getting any kind of assurance. They are not maybe getting even health insurance or even good pay, but yeah, they're business owners. So I realized that actually there is no guarantee when founding a business. I actually realized it even before I started to work for a small company, but then I seen it, and the fact is that if you start a business, you have no guarantees that you will one day become a millionaire or a billionaire and are not going to be working. No, there are no such guarantees. There are no guarantees that your employees will be working good. There are no guarantees that the tax authorities are not going to come to you and say that, hey, you haven't paid this tax, which you didn't even know existed. So, yeah, there are lots and lots of problems that business owner could face. And now, after working for a small business for some time, I realized that there is a big chance that I will never open my business just because I'm not going to want to do it. Since it's not all as good as you could imagine after listening to a few podcasts of, billionaires talking about how to make billions. No, it's actually a very hard work. So I think it's a very good thing that while working for a small business, you get to see that as an employee without actually risking to lose a business or everything you own. And the second advantage is you get to work with the business owner, right? And you will never work most probably with the CEO in the corporation, except you are, already worked there for like 20 years and got to the board members and stuff like that. But no, we are talking about like an average folks who are just finished university a few years ago and are currently in the search for a workplace, right? So you will get to work with a business owner while you're working for a small business. And I think it's a good thing from the perspective of one, you get to experience and see how the person is actually living and understand maybe whether or not it's for you, whether or not you want to become a business owner one day. And the second thing is that you actually get to understand lots of things about the business itself, right? While you are working with the business owner, you can actually ask questions, you can actually get the answers from first-hand experience. And I think that's actually very nice, especially if you are young, especially if you are just getting into the work environment in general. I think that is great. The third advantage is that possibly you could have less working hours, since it depends, of course, but in corporations, especially like in big law, in consulting, in audit, maybe blue-collar workers, they tend to work like enormous amount of hours in corporations, right? But in small businesses, this is, I would say, it's not the case. But it depends very much on the place you are working at and the position you are occupying. But in general, I would say that possibly you could have less working hours, right? So you will most probably have just your 9 to 5, and that will be no overtime. But again, it very much depends on the business. But in some cases, another, like the advantage which I find good about small businesses is that in some cases the relationships between the business owner and the employees become more like family-like, I would say. However, I am not sure whether this is a good or a bad thing, since when telling you that you are a family member, employer most probably will ask you to do more work for free. Yeah, I just said about the smaller amount of working hours, but it depends. And there are cases, I have experienced it myself, when a small business owner who ran the business said, oh yeah, we're all like a family. But then I got phone calls at like 8 o'clock in the evening asking me to do something, or asking me to do something which I actually wasn't even responsible for. And I did it, since, I was very much respecting the person who was running the business. So yeah, I guess that could be a very good advantage, right? If you have an employer who is actually thinking about you and who is actually wanting you to live a good and comfortable life. I'm not sure why the employer would want to do it, but there are some good people out there. So yeah, in this case, this could be good. In this case, you could ask the employer to, leave for a doctor, or maybe take a day off without actually writing any kind of papers or stuff like that. But at the same time, they could ask you to do more work for free. And of course, it depends only on you whether or not you are gonna do that, since if it's not required by law, you're actually free not to do it. But when you're working with people, you probably will tend to help them. And, sooner or later it could pass the barrier into, into being a headache, yeah. So this last one is advantage and the disadvantage at once. And as to the disadvantages of working for small businesses, I think that sometimes you get to work more, as I said, than for huge corporations, since small companies often lack employees and do not want to pay more to get more employees in place. So you're more likely to get to do the job of numerous people. For example, while working as a lawyer or an assistant lawyer or a paralegal, I will be talking from my experience, right? You can actually somehow transfer it into your field of expertise. You also could be told to, make calendars for the partners. You can also be told to maybe greet the clients and stuff like that. On the one side, that's a good thing, since you get to actually experience things which you would never experience without that, right? But on the other hand, yeah, you are doing the job of other people, you are doing the job of administrators and stuff like that, and you are most probably are not getting paid for it. So yeah, that is actually a disadvantage, more likely than an advantage. The second disadvantage is that small businesses pay less in benefits, tend to pay lesser salaries, and in general less money. For example, you most probably will get better bonuses while working for huge corporations. You will most probably get better quarter bonuses. For example, lots of sick days are paid by the corporations, but not by the small companies. And in general, the salaries, if you will look at the huge corporations, yeah, of course, those are better there since they just have more money. That's it. They have better maybe insurances, maybe some events and cases in which they pay you money. For example, some companies tend to pay you bonuses when you get married or when you get a child. They tend to provide you with a bonus. You most probably are never gonna get it in a small company, right? And the reason for that is very simple, and the small company most probably just doesn't have money to do it. So yeah. And the third disadvantage is that the company is not going to look as good on your CV, since most probably nobody will know it, especially in places other than your country or even city. So if you will work for a small company which is not yet very popular or very known, right? Most probably when you will try to switch from one job to another, people are not going to know what is that. Your HRs, your potential employees in other companies, especially if you are, want to move from one country to another, they most probably are never going to know what is this company and like what is that. They are not going to know what to expect from you since they don't know what is this company, and they might even think that this is some kind of fake company and you work for your daddy who just wrote you out a check and said that you work there. But so that is the case, which is this very realistic situation that could happen to you while you will be working for small businesses. So I think this is a pretty major disadvantage, right? Since I think that in today's economy, it's very likely that you are gonna change jobs in every 4 or 5 years, 7 years. That's actually a good result. A lot of people are changing their job once in 2-3 years time. So yeah, that's just how nowadays economy works. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know. That's just the reality. Yeah. So yeah, that will be a huge disadvantage for you, since you will have to explain what is this company and what have you been doing there, which is not the case with the huge corporations. And at this moment I want to go to the pros of working for a huge corporation, right? The first one is, of course, the bigger salaries and more benefits: paid sick days, stock options, just stocks being paid to you, benefits, quarterly bonuses, stuff like that. That's a huge advantage since, as I said, we all go to work somewhere because of money. We all go to work, we all work our 9 to 5 just because we receive the salary at the end of the month. So if this is the major reason, that is actually the major advantage, the bigger salary, right? The other advantage is you get more opportunities for growth inside of the company. It could be growth in your department. For example, you can become analyst, then senior analyst, then the leader of the team, then maybe, who knows, the board member or the CEO, right? Most probably not, but yeah, there is a chance for that. So there are opportunities for growth, and even if you work for a huge corporation, there is a chance that you maybe might somehow change your expertise. Maybe you will be working for one department, but then you will learn a skill or two, and you will switch to another department where you will have better salary or better work-life balance, and all of that is going to happen in frames of work in one corporation, right? Which is pretty awesome, I would say, since in nowadays world, every day is changing, everything is changing very fast. The AI could take over some professions. The technologies are developing very fast, so you always get to learn something new in order to stay on top, right? So I think that is a good thing, that you will get more opportunities, more flexibility, I would say. Another advantage is that corporation is probably well known and will look good and better on your CV than a small business. As I said, small businesses don't look good on your CV, but corporations, if you work for Bank of America, everybody knows what is Bank of America, right? Even though it's not corporation. If you work for Microsoft or Apple or Google, no matter where you will go, people will know what is that, and they will value that, since they understand that if you work for Google, if such a huge and good company as Google hired you, you most probably are a very good worker, right? And that actually very much applies also to international workers. For example, you used to work in the US for Google for 5 years, and then you want to move to, let's say, Norway. they will know what is Google in Norway. But if you worked in the US for a small company, like maybe even not that small, but like let's say some law firm, right? Or a small tech IT startup, and yeah, maybe they even made good money. But then you move to Norway and you say, yeah, I worked for Petersons and Partners. I'm not sure whether this firm exists. Probably it exists, but that's just a fantasy, right? So any kind of coincidence is a mistake. So yeah, let's say you worked for Peterson and Partners in the US, a very known firm in the state of, let's say, Texas. But then you move to Norway, and nobody will know what is Peterson and Partners. Nobody. But if you work for Google, they will know what it is. So I think that is a great thing. It actually provides you with some kind of carte blanche, since people know that you're a good worker. And last but not least is that your leaders might be known people in their industry who would provide you with, who knows, recommendation letters if you will work good for the future, or an advice of how to proceed further with your career. Which is actually very valuable, especially if you work with like some cool guys. I'm not saying CEOs, you most probably are never gonna see the CEO, but in general, the people around you in huge corporations sometimes tend to be very well known in their field. Let's say in the field of finance or in the field of law. Most probably they are known by some other people, like maybe partners, and their word, their recommendation will provide you with an advantage, which will maybe help you to achieve better things in life, maybe get a better work later, job later, maybe plenty of opportunities which I can't even mention right now. But in general, yeah, this goes a long way, and I think this is a huge advantage. But now let's talk about disadvantages of corporations. The first one is that you are a small part of a huge system, which might feel bad for those of you who value close relationships. So as I said, while working for small business, you most probably work together with the business owner, but in corporation you are just a small part. You are very insignificant. You can be replaced in one day. If you will die, the next day the Sarah from office will say, oh no, he died. But, in a few days' time they will find another guy who will sit at your place and do the same work. So, yeah, that actually could feel pretty bad, especially if you died. But yeah, if you died, you probably will not care at all. But yeah, in general, that is in my opinion a bad thing, especially for people who like to feel valued. Yeah, but I wouldn't say that this is a disadvantage in actual, for your life and for your financial stability. It's just a disadvantage for your maybe mentality if you like to be valued. That's it. The job in general could be more monotonous in the corporations, and I think this is a disadvantage, since in a small company, if you are a small mechanism in a huge system, as I said, so you will be performing pretty much the same tasks over and over again until you change your role or proceed through the career ladder. That could be an advantage for some of you. That could be a disadvantage for some of you. I thought at some point of my career that I want to do lots of different things. I want to do lots of different tasks. I don't want to do monotonous work. But then I realized that I am way better at doing monotonous work. I am way better at learning something and then becoming a pro at this thing, becoming a genius in this small field, of making one or two tasks. So for me, that's a good thing. But I know that for a lot of people, and even for me at some point back in time, it was a bad thing. So yeah, decide for yourself whether or not being monotonous and doing the same things is good for you. The third disadvantage is that there is a chance that you will have to work more hours, especially if you will work for a big law firm, investment or consulting companies. There is a chance that you will be working 80 hours work weeks. But at the same time, you will get paid a lot for that. You will get a lot of bonuses. So it depends on you whether or not you want to do that. But at the same time, there are corporations and big corporations where you're just working 9 to 5, since they don't want to pay you for overtime and they're obliged by the law to pay for overtime, so they just, don't make you to work more. So if you're a fan of work, if you're a workaholic, just go there and work 80 hours work weeks if you want to. Go work for big law firms and investment firms. So yeah, that's actually very much depends on how you feel about it. And last but not least is that it could be harder to get ahead in your career, since you will have lots and lots of people occupying the same role as you. Let's say you're an analyst in some financial company and you are analyzing the finances of the other companies where they will be trying to make investments to. There are most probably like 50 people same as you doing the same things, and most probably some of them are way smarter than you. So yeah, it will be harder to get ahead and stand up and be somehow seen by the senior management, which deciding whether or not to actually promote you and or give you more money. So that's disadvantage, I think. But at the same time, if you are not a workaholic, if you don't have a goal of achieving everything, and if you don't have a goal of crazy growth in the corporation, maybe it's an advantage for you. You're just one of them. You're just one of lots of people who is sitting there and working, right? And you will most probably be, nobody will see you, nobody will hear you, nobody will know anything about you. It might be a good thing, it might be a bad thing. Very much depends on your character. Very much depends on your mood and what you want to achieve in life. And concluding all of the things which I said, I would say, personally from my experience, that it is, for a young professional, it's better to work for a corporation. It might be good to see how small business works, yeah. But for your CV, for your salary to grow, it's better to work for a corporation. It will provide you with more practical experience, which you will get from there and maybe in some time bring to another corporation and to another corporation. With that, you will make your salary higher and bigger. That's it. Since for most of us guys, we go to work to make money in order to live. So that is the best thing you can do. Just make more money out of your job. And I would say there is more flexibility in a corporation, right? There is more flexibility and more variants of what you can do after working there. But for some of you, maybe the small businesses, small boutique consulting firms will be something you will like to do. So yeah, guys, I pretty much just listed the advantages and disadvantages, and it's only for you to decide. But I would say if you're young, go and try to work for a huge corporation. It will look good on your CV. And then maybe go to work for a small business, and then again for the corporation. Do whatever you need to do. And I would say that that's it from my side today. Hope you enjoyed my monotonous talk. If you did, press the like button, subscribe to my channel, and of course don't forget to join the Discord server. Link is in the description of the video. Join please, I will be happy to discuss things with you there. Very happy to discuss things, and yeah, just will be happy that you will be there. So thank you for that. And I will see you very, very soon. Bye.